Yes, we are discussing that income method, components of factor income. First one, we have already finished, compensation of employees. This compensation employees, three parts we have already discussed. First is that wages and salaries in cash. Second one, compensation in kind. And third one, employer contribution to social security scheme. Next is that operating surplus. What is operating surplus? What are the components of the subcomponents of the operating surplus? There are four subcomponents. First one is the rent. Second is the interest. Third one is the royalty. And fourth one is the profit. These are four subcomponents of the operating surplus. Before this, we have already said that the four factors: production, land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Land receives that rent, labor receives that wages and salaries. That part is to be taken as the compensation of employees. Already we have finished. Remaining this part, rent, interest, and profits. And I added one, royalties. We will discuss one by one. What is the rent? Rent is defined as the amount receivable by the landlord from a tenant for the use of land. You have already well acquainted with the rent. So that is that one kinds of part of that operating surplus. Second one is that interest. Interest is defined as the amount payable to the owners of financial assets in the production units. The production units uses these assets for production and in turn makes interest payment imputed for actual. That is called the interest. And third one, which is that called royalty. Royalty is defined as the amount receivable by the landlord for granting this leasing right of that subsoil assets. That is called the royalties. And fourth one, most important, which is to be called the profits. So what is profit? Whenever these three factors of production, land, labor, capital, this should be coordinated. This should be coordinated by whom? The entrepreneur. So by coordinating all these factors, the producer produces the product, the entrepreneur produces the product, so that after paying all this rent, interest, wages and salaries, what are the remaining portions, residual portions, that is to be called that profits. So this part of the profits includes, number one, you have already known as a commerce students, that is that One is corporation tax. What is corporation tax? When that company or entrepreneurs earns that profits, on that profits, whenever he pays some tax to the government, that is called that corporation tax. And second part is that dividend. We have already known the meaning of the dividends. Whenever the shareholders invest their capital in the business, they need also profits. So part of the profits are to be distributed to these shareholders are to be known as the dividends. Corporation tax, dividends, and last one, which is that undistributed profits. Or it is to be called that retained earning. Undistributed profit or retained earning. Because in business there are some risk factors. So at any time businessman also wants to extend his business. So some of the profit are to be kept by that businessman from his own pockets. That is to be called the undistributed profits or retained earning. So it means operating surplus OS or operating surplus equal to rent plus interest plus royalty plus profits. So operating surplus equal to rent plus interest plus royalty plus profits. Again, profit has the three subparts. These are the one is the corporation tax, corporation TION, corporation tax plus dividends plus undistributed profits. These are to be the called operating surplus. We have already said these components. One is that compensation of employees, another is that operating surplus, and third one that mixed income. So one we have finished compensation employees, second one is that operating surplus, and third one the mixed income. What is mixed income? Mixed income is to be called that earned income and unearned incomes. When a teacher teaches in the class, he takes that salaries. Besides this his incomes, if he has that some business or he is taking that any rent from his own building, then that kinds of income is also to be that included of these persons. So these kinds of income are to be called that mixed income. So whenever we add this compensation of employees plus operating surplus plus mixed income, then this is to be called that NDP, add factor cost by income method. By income methods. If we know NDP at factor cost plus net factor income from abroad, then we will get that NNP at factor cost, that is called national. So these components of factor income, whenever we are adding that compensation employees, operating surplus and mixed income, this is to be called the NDP at factor cost. Remember, value added, value of output minus intermediate consumption equal to that gross value added market price or GDP at market price. Remember it. But whenever we are calculating that income method formula, compensation employees, operating surplus and mixed income, this is called that net domestic product at factor cost. And whenever the question asks to find out the national income, at that time we will have to add that net factor income from abroad, or we may write here income method formula, that is NP factor cost, that is called national. By income method. Compensation of employees, number 2, operating surplus, number 3, mixed income, and number 4, net factor income from abroad. So we may write here NNP at factor cost equal to shortly compensation employees plus operating surplus plus mixed income plus net factor income from abroad. We may extend here compensation employees in 3 parts. What are these? Wages and salaries in cash plus wages and salaries in kind plus employers contribution to social security scheme. Some is between SSC or SSS, social security scheme. First, plus operating surplus, that is that rent plus royalty plus interest plus profit, or this profit is the components of corporation tax, plus dividends plus undistributed profits. Plus mixed income plus net factor income from abroad is to be called that unpaid factor cost or national income by income methods. You can solve these numerical problems. Besides this, we can calculate that national income by other. One is the primary sector, another is the secondary sector, and third one is the tertiary sectors. So similarly, the contributions, what are the primary sector incomes, what are the secondary sector incomes, what are the tertiary sector incomes, is that compensation employees, operating surplus, and mixed income. Those who are organizing fields like that land, labor, and capital, which is to be used by a farmer and producing the product. Similarly by industry, similarly by that tertiary sectors. So identifications of the national income by income method can be classified into three categories. One is the primary sector, another is the secondary sector, third one is the tertiary sectors. So these are the steps, write down that steps to calculate that national income or involving in the calculation of national income. Steps identify of that national income. First step is that identification and classification of producing enterprises. Identification and classification of producing enterprises. Identifications and classifications of producing enterprises. Identification and classification of producing enterprises. This is the first step income, which employed in the factors that one is the primary sector, another is the secondary sector, another is the tertiary sector. The classification क्या होगा इसको identify which one is that first one is the primary sector, another is the secondary sector, and third one is the tertiary sector. इनको identify किए और classify किए. These are the three classifications: primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sectors. You already know what is primary sector, what is secondary sector, what is tertiary sector. I will not discuss more. After this second step, classification of factor income. हो गया first point. Second point. First point is the primary. Identify and classification of producing enterprises, primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. And third is the classification of factor income. Classification of factor income. This classification is: one is compensation employees, second is that operating surplus, third one that mixed income, and fourth one is that net factor income from abroad. Then we will get that national income by income method. These are the stages: identification and classification of producing enterprises, second the classification of factor income, compensation surplus, operating surplus, mixed income, and net factor income from abroad. tomorrow we'll start the expenditure methods.